Try again. Still saying it's on. Oh my God. Hello.
Oh my goodness me, I'm so sorry. It's not like that only took us
That was
15 minutes or anything.
that was very stressful, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, it was. It was. Anyway, in other news, Tilly's awake. So,
Okay.
how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right now. I'm okay. I'm all
We got
right.
there. We got there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not on my profile, we're not on my page. We're on your page.
And everybody's
Your
gonna think, what
profile.
the fuck's going off?
Yeah,
Not gonna
it's going to
lie.
be interesting.
Yeah.
But what I'll do
I've
is
got some
it'll probably
interesting
be a case of
characters.
it'll probably be a case of adding this to my page later on, I think. But let me just pop it in my group. So we might not have a lot of live viewers, but we'll see.
That's
So if you are
absolutely
watching
fine.
live, if you are watching live and you're one of my followers, please share this because we're not where we would normally be, and we're also not at the time we would normally be. So to make it doubly difficult for ourselves, we're live at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning from someone else's page. But there we go. You work with the tech
You're
you
doing all
have,
right.
don't you? So we're doing all right. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you? You enjoying London? Are you
It's
enjoying?
awesome. We're having a really good
Good.
time. Yeah, we're having an amazing time. We went to an incredible restaurant last night called Imano, which made me think of Vic and Bob. You're probably too young for Vic and Bob, but basically it's a Japanese and sushi restaurant, but it's got interactive whiteboards for the tables with like projectors above the tables. So while you're waiting for your food, you can play ping and you can draw on the tables, and it's awesome. We had a really, really good time. It was ace.
Oh,
It's very expensive, but amazing. So, and we've got tickets for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child this afternoon, so we're very excited.
oh,
Very
good,
excited. I've
good.
got a very excited Potterhead on my hands. So Potterhead, not Pothead. So um, let's do introductions as if we're on my page because I'll rip it and share it to my page later on. So
Right, I'm gonna
hey
let you
everyone.
lead this. Gonna let you lead
Okay. Okay, that'll be weird for you, being
this.
live and being like told what to say. So hey everyone, if you don't know me, my name's Heidi Maver. I'm the Unstoppable Woman. I'm a public speaker, a life coach, a feminist, a single mom, an autistic ally, and a badass. And every week I interview someone who is inspirational to me, who has inspiration to share or a story to tell. And today I'm interviewing Lindsay McGlone, who is the fierce fat feminist,
Correct.
who is an Instagram influencer, official, a a feminist blogger, a clothes wearing legend, and sometimes a not clothes wearing legend.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk around all things fat acceptance and feminism today, aren't we?
Yes. Yes.
Cool. And normally I pre-interview my guests, but me and Lindsay just are winging it today, so we'll see what happens.
Clearly, we're winging it.
Which is kind of the theme for the things that we do together, generally
Yes.
speaking. Um, So worth mentioning that Lindsay and I are co-producing an event in January called Thrive in Doncaster, which we'll speak about a little more at the end of the video. But we know each other. That was Tilly farting, if you wondered what that noise was. You'll know each other predominantly through burlesque. Lindsay's an amazing stage manager. I'm also amazing burlesque producer and MC. And that's how we connected originally. And then we've done some work together, and Lindsay's taught me how to use Instagram, and I've told her to put her prices up, and it's been amazing. So, so just give me a little bit of, I've given a little bit of preamble, but give me a bit of background into you. Tell us about you and how you got here.
So obviously I predominantly talk about fat acceptance. Um, I was never bothered by my body per se, not that you should be. Um, but then when I went up to secondary school, I saw that like everybody else was telling me that I should have been bothered about being fat. I got bullied. Um, it got pretty hard for me. I did some crazy shit. Not just the obvious things, but also like self what's the word? Not self-destructing, self-destructing. So I had really self-destructive behaviour. And there was a predominant point where I decided to stop giving a fuck. And at that point, that's where I started to look at fat acceptance, about loving myself again. And then I found an online community that just got me. I started stage managing 4 years ago. I found that really liberating. I found the BLS community really helpful. And then it just kind of, within the last year, has gone, and everybody wants to listen to me, which is really weird for me. But I've started to get used to the idea, clearly.
You're like officially a famous fatty, aren't you?
Well,
Like,
apparently so, yeah, officially.
yeah,
I am now been to an event.
yeah, an event with other influencers.
Yeah.
And, okay, we'll talk about that maybe.
Okay.
So, we won't dwell on it too much. But when you were in school, you were really badly bullied
Mm,
around your size and
yes.
and and like, okay, let's just talk about language because I'm going to call you fat a lot in this video.
Yes.
Will you just talk about why that's okay for me to do that?
Yeah. Fat is a descriptive word. I see myself as fat. I am fat. I find it more disrespectful when somebody doesn't call me fat. I think that's rude, because that's my body type and I'm comfortable with the term fat. I'm also comfortable using it to other people, but because of the way it's stigmatized, I still have to be around them a bit to understand their language to see whether I can use it towards them. But I'm completely comfortable with the term fat.
Yeah. And that's quite different to how most people will view that word, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Particularly
So
straight-sized people.
yeah, fat for me isn't a negative. The connotations of the word fat has been given to us from society, and the expectations and the limitations they put on my body. So that's why I use it as well, because if we break the stigma around using the word, then we'll also break the stigma around my body type. So that's why I also use the word fat.
Yeah. So, do you mind talking a little about that when we talk about fat phobia, when we
Mm,
talk about stigma around being a fat person?
yeah.
Do you mind expanding on that? So, because for a lot of people, like I know that we have this conversation, we're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But for some people, the first time they're hearing this is a bit like, what? Hang on, what?
Yeah,
It's all a bit of a mind fuck, isn't it? So, do
yeah.
you mind expanding on that a bit?
Yeah, so fat phobia, from my understanding and how I view it and how it affects me, is the idea that society are not scared of fat people, because people are like, well, I'm not scared of fat people. Why am I scared of fat people? That's not the idea. The idea is because the way we've grown up in society teaches you that a straight size body is desirable. It's the idea that we are genuinely scared of being called fat. Like, we know the connotations with the word, and people don't want to become it because they see it as undesirable, they see it as an issue, and also because of that, then the negativity comes with that, and that's how other people treat you because they are so scared of being it. And fat phobia also exists in the fat world. So like, a smaller fat will be desirable, so they will state that they're fat, but I'd never be her size, I'd never be that size. And that's the idea of fat phobia. So skirting
Hmm.
around using the word fat has connotations of shame using the word. Yeah, exactly. I spoke about this on that David's podcast. So when even though he knew me,
Sorry.
it's all right. Even though he knew me personally and he knew that I was comfortable with the term fat, because he was saying it publicly, he stuttered before he said it, and I could see that he felt uncomfortable. And that, and I spoke to him on the podcast, and he, like, you could see his body language change because he knew that what I was saying was right. The idea that somebody else can't use the word fat fluently shows me that subconsciously, whether you are aware of it or not, you still think that fat is a bad word and my body type is a negative. That's why we should be able to use the word fat without
Yeah.
skirting around it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because like I am like a UK size 16, 18, and constantly, and I'm sure this is major, major more for you, or maybe not, I don't know, but constantly I will say things like blah 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 blah. I'll describe myself as fat or plus size, for
Yeah.
example, I'll usually say plus size, but because of the different things around like owning that word, I feel like it's not necessarily right for me to own that word fully, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'll use the word plus size, and people's immediate reaction, look, she's on the move. People's immediate reaction is, you're not fat. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, it's like that they're so keen to make sure that they do not
Disprove
think that
it.
you are fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because being fat is the very worst thing in the whole wide world that you could be.
Yeah.
In that context. Yeah.
Okay, I find it interesting. I've recently put on weight. When I say I've got fat, people feel the need to. I imagine she's commenting some more.
I'm assuming she's going to correct you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, oh, where people say, you're not fat, you're beautiful.
I'm both. Like, I'm both.
Yeah, exactly. They're not mutually exclusive, are they?
Yeah, and it's the other things that they use to dismiss the word fat because the body type is so undesirable in society. So things like, and I find these really offensive, and people don't understand that people will say like, oh, you're not fat, you're chunky, you're fluffy, you're big boned, you're just a bit pleasantly plump.
You've just got a big personality.
You've got more to love. Oh, I hate them so much. I find them so rude and offensive because they're still anything, and it's just a nice way of detesting against my body type. It is a nice way of being against my body because they still can't say the word fat. And the thing is I've been brought up in a household where I've always used the term fat. This is not alien to me to be able to accept that I am fat. My mum always said that when I was younger, I would never say I'm big, and I would correct her from a really young age and say that I'm fat. And I found that being able to say the word fat has gave me a lot more confidence, because when people would come at me and be like, oh, you fat bitch, da, 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 I would usually say yes, but less of the bitch. And they just didn't. It was it was honestly mind-boggling to them that I was going, yeah, I know I am. And they're like, oh, oh, right, okay. And it really
Yeah,
shut them
where'd you go
down
with
really
that?
quickly, because they're
Yeah.
like, right, because if that's all people can be offended by me, then I think I'm doing an all right job. Like, if that's all they've got to
Yeah.
say, I think I'm doing an all right job.
Yeah. So what do you think it is then about where we've got to now? I saw Hannah Gadsby on Friday night, and she referenced kind of classical art, and she talked about her body type a bit, and she talked about how people tell her that she's Rubenesque, and she got really pissed off about it because she was like, no, Rubens' models were silent and naked, and I'm neither of those things right now. Do you know what I mean? But and it was a really great show, by the way. But where do you think that's come from? That idea that being fat is undesirable, something to be hated on, something to be feared, like becoming fat, something to be feared. Fat people should be publicly shamed and spoken about in a negative way. Where do you think that's come from?
Do you know what? I wish I knew. I do wish I knew. Because back in day, in I think in the Tudor times, it used to be desirable to be fat because that, and I don't agree with these views either, but that was the idea of wealth. You could feed yourself. It was the idea that you took a space when you walked in, that you was high up in society because you was larger. Because like I have researched some of this, I've had a look, and I just think it is, and this shows how shallow we are. It is the idea of being physically desirable. It is just the idea of being physically desirable. That is what it's seen as. That is where it stems from, in my opinion. It's the idea of being physically desirable, and people don't see my body as physically desirable. Shops have been telling me for years that my body's not physically desirable because they won't stock my size. So I do think it's just basically what you look like. I think that's where it stemmed from.
It's just the aesthetic. It's just that requirement or that desire, especially increasingly, to be a particular body type, and that not being your body type at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, in any way. Like
It's just,
not being a lot of people's body types, to be fair.
yeah,
It's pretty unreachable for a
it's
lot of
straight
people.
cut. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what I thought was really interesting when I started listening to you and hearing you talk about stuff, and it really changed the way that I looked at a lot of things. And one of the things that it changed the way I looked at was I read something. I've talked about this on a video before, and I think it was from Leanda Lewis, who runs Just Eat the Donut group, and she said there's like it might have been Jem Kennedy actually. Anyway, there's like a bracket of, for people who are adults and who have reached their fully grown size.
Mm.
there's like a bracket of about £20 where most people will sit around most of the time.
Yeah.
And this kind of like, and she was talking about slimming down beyond that, and she was basically saying that, you know, this idea that that someone with my body type, for example, could and should try to become a size 8 with a six pack and like buns of steel, like in order to get past that £20 bracket and beyond to become that body type would require such extreme eating practices and such extreme exercise practices that may have, and would almost certainly have, an impact on other areas of my life in a detrimental way. So it would require, you know, disordered eating in some way. Not necessarily means like actually having an eating disorder, but like restricting particular food types and extreme amounts of exercise to even think about getting anywhere near that aesthetic.
Mm.
You're getting
Oh,
messages through.
there we go.
Because my body, sorry, I've lost you.
It's all right.
Because my body type is this shape and size, and all of the women on my mum's side of the family are this shape and size.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like big tits, round bellies, chunky asses, very skinny legs.
Mm.
Like that you can look at it and it's like genetic. That's our body type.
Yeah.
And and there's this thing, isn't there, that it's a lie that you can achieve that Instagram ready body.
Yeah.
For most people.
Yeah.
Like regardless of what size you are.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting. I'm sort of hijacking your conversation. But I just thought it was really interesting because I think the conversation around fat phobia has as much relevance for people who are not fat, I think, because it highlights that.
Yeah.
You know. So what made you think, you know what, I'm going to start talking about this? Like what moved you to a place where you were like, I'm going to get on social media and I'm going to rant about being fat? What brought that on?
So initially it wasn't my intention when I started my profile, so to speak, on Instagram. It wasn't my intention to go on there and talk about being fat all the time. And and I didn't want to be, and I'm very part of that community now, but I didn't want to be one of those people who go on about their problems all the time. But then when I saw the space and saw how positive the actual community was, the fat acceptance community, and at the time when I came in, the body positive community, which I no longer associate with at all. I don't associate with the body positive community now. But at the time, I saw what a positive space it was, and how speaking about fat acceptance and things about that you want to change was positive, because people were listening and they were acting upon it, and people were just little things like saying, just messaging me saying, just to let you know, I get completely what you mean, or thank you for saying that. I've been wanting somebody to say that for a long time. Thank you for saying that. You've changed my way of thinking. And I was like, wait a minute, people are listening to me. I must be saying something right. They agree. I am right. And it's initially.
It's always nice.
Yeah. Initially, it was that idea that they were feeding me as well a bit, because they were saying, Lindsay, you're right. Do you know what I mean? That now I am confident enough in my own views to, if somebody challenged them, and I do play devil's advocate with myself because I'm ready for it. Do you know what I mean? I'm ready for people to say, well, wait a minute. And I'm confident enough in my views to be able to say, well, no, these are my views, and I do believe that they are right and they are correct. So in intentional wise, I didn't intend to talk about it. I just saw a platform that I was already on, and so many people doing it, and I was like, shit, we've got things to say, and they're right things to say, and we need to be saying them. And the amount of people that have come to me and said, thank you for saying that, or thank you for not giving a fuck, basically. And since the people that I've met, and people have cried when they've met me and said, like, thank you for saying what you said, and I still don't get it. I don't get it. But I get that somebody needs a voice, and for some people they can't
Mm,
do that, and that's why I do it.
mm. I think that's so important. I get that with Unstoppable Woman, people messaging me saying, you've kind of put into words what I've been feeling and not been able to say.
Yeah,
And I've just shared your video so I don't have to tell everybody what I want to say to them.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're like, you're welcome.
yeah.
So, Gemma I'm going to ask you a question about weight loss stuff in a minute,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No.
So Gemma says people are so quick to congratulate and support weight loss journeys and then look awkward at you and not know what to say when you put the weight back on. I love the owning of the word fat. It means the world needs more of you. I think she means you, Gemma.
Thank you.
So we've talked about this before, haven't we? Because there is this culture of, and I've been out publicly for a while talking about how I'm anti-weight loss culture, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just so damaging, so damaging.
Yeah.
And and I grew up in a house with a mum who was a Weight Watchers leader, who could eat eggs if they were poached, but not if they were fried, and like lived off cottage cheese and
Cottage
like,
cheese.
oh yeah, in the 70s, cottage cheese was the weight loss food of choice. I don't know, much like cauliflower rice would be now, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But I grew up in a household where a woman, and she worked in food, she worked in catering. So I grew up with really mixed messages around food. So she would make huge meals and pudding that we would eat, but she wouldn't eat them. She would be eating a salad
Yeah.
and sardines. Do you know what I mean? All that.
Yeah.
So my relationship with food and my body is pretty messed up, and it's not her fault. That was just the times.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like, it's taken me a long time to be like, do you know what? I'm going to bin my bathroom scales. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Life's too short. So and I still carry some internalized fat phobia myself. I know I do.
Yeah.
It's impossible to shake all of that off. But we've talked, haven't we, about the thing about in the weight loss field and in the body positivity field, there being this before and after thing
Yeah.
that I know really grinds your gears.
Yeah.
Would you mind talking about that?
Yeah, because I've been questioned a lot on it recently, actually.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've got a lot of DMs. So I'll just like a bit backstory. The other day, an account followed me, and it was basically like animated versions of before and after photos, and it were just fucking loads of them. I mean, endless, endless, and it was like before it was like a sad person who were really fat, and then after a straight side person looking really
They're like
happy.
this, aren't they?
Yeah. And I put a screenshot of my story, and I found this really triggering. And even on my account, loads of people came back at me and just came at me. Why is this offensive? Why are you bothered that people are losing weight? Why are you not happy for them? Why do you not want people to be healthy? And I was like, whoa, you haven't even given me a chance to explain. So so in a before and after photo, typically there is a fat person and then a person who's either lost weight or is more society like desirable. And the reason that I find that triggering is because that they are literally saying, oh look, I'm so happy now, I'm not her body. And that's how I see it. So people are saying, like, look how happy you can be if you are not you. So a fat person will be looking at that and thinking, oh fuck, I've not lost weight. I am not that person. I am not a straight sized person. And I find them so detrimental, so detrimental. But what people think is from that they get the connotation that I hate people for losing weight. Now, I don't hate people for losing weight at all. People can lose weight, that's their personal choice. And I'm not naive. I get the reasons why people would want to lose weight. But before and after pictures are really, really triggering. And I also think that they can stem eating disorders. They can self-destructive behavior, because if somebody sees that and they are triggered by that, you don't know that for 3 days they're not going to eat because they feel so bad because they've seen that photo of a desirable person next to a fat person. And also, like you said, it's always the body language. So the fat person will be stood there and she'll be really, really upset and really miserable and with her head down and her posture. And that's because that's how society sees fat people. But as soon as they're straight size, they're really happy. And oh, it's so great. Look at me now. I'm happy because I've lost weight. And I just don't think that losing weight is the best thing you can do in ever. I don't believe that. I genuinely don't believe that that is the best thing you can ever do, is to lose weight. And also people say, well, what if it's not a drastic change? And what if it's not a big change and they're showing like before and after? That is still the same, because they are saying that when there's less of them, they are better. And they are saying they don't want to be my body type, which is fine. I'm all right with that. You don't have to be fat. But what you are also saying is, I'm going to be really, really happy now I'm not her size, I'm not her body type. So it isn't against losing weight, and it's not against people's achievements. And I know somebody in the community did this, in the burlesque community. They'd lost weight, but they put a photo of their face on, and they actively said, I'm not going to post a before and after photo because that's not what it is about. I'm just showing you that I'm really happy. And that we're all over that. We're all over that. I love that. Because
Yeah.
they're not saying that this body type is undesirable. They're not saying that this body type is desirable. They're just saying, I've done a personal achievement and I'm happy about that. And I'm happy for people that have personal achievements. That's great. But you've got to think about the language that you are putting off onto other people.
Yeah. I think the thing with, I mean, it's like what you said about, when you post a before and after picture, oh God, we see them all the time, don't we? Especially in some of the circles that I move in, because some of the circles that I move in are multi-level marketing circles, and there are a lot of weight loss products in the multi-level marketing space. But anyway, no, I do not want your skinny insert name of food stuff. Fuck off. But anyway, yeah. So, but I think that like you said, when you see that picture, if you're someone who is not even very suggestible, just what follows from that is, okay, so I should try to be like the person on the right, not the person on the left.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna join a gym or join a fat club or whatever it might be, and I've been that person. And the reason that those before and after pictures are so popular is because they are a method by which the weight loss industry markets to us.
Yes.
They're a tool.
Yeah.
They're not, we don't do that because we came up with that ourselves. We do that because for 50 years, weight loss companies have been using that as a means to market their services.
Yeah.
And it is actually illegal to do that. There are things within the Advertising Standards Agency that say that you can't say, look at this person, they used our product, this is what they do now. But they do it, especially on social media, because people use it as personal testimony, and that's your way around it. That's your cheat.
Yeah.
But I think it's really naive to not understand that that's what that is. We're being sold to every time that someone posts a before and after picture.
Yeah.
And we're being sold, weight loss products that, don't work long term. And when I say work, I mean like if you're opting into them to lose weight,
Yeah.
they only work as long as you use them.
Yeah.
And then people will come back and say, oh, well, a healthy lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. But, at the end of the day, these companies, it's in their interest to keep you using their products. Yeah. So it's not in their interest to give you a product that does actually work full long term.
Yeah.
And I think it's naive to not understand that. Not, yeah, it is. Sorry, I'm ranting. We'll get on it. I'll rant. Gemma says, I've lost weight many times, put it all back on again every time because it's not the answer to my happiness. False promises by diet culture that promise that happiness is determined by your size. If you're not happy inside, it doesn't matter what size you are. Internal happiness and good mental health is much more important than a waistline. Boom. Drop the mic. Yeah. It's like that thing of, and I can't remember who it was that said it, and I saw it on a comedy show, and I'm trying to remember that it might have been Sarah Pascoe, but it might not have been. basically talking about revenge weight loss. When you break up with a boy and then
Mm.
you go and get your hair cut and get thin and get sexy, and I'll teach
Reinvent
him. You know,
yourself.
she was
Yeah.
like, and she was like, the craziness of the idea that in order to teach a man that he's missing out, you actually have to become less of a human by being smaller and taking up less space is so anti-feminist. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, like we spend all our time as feminists saying, take up space, use your voice, be seen. And then the weight loss industry are like, oh, take up less space, be smaller.
Yeah.
Like it's totally okay. Christelle says, oh, you wouldn't even need to be suggestible if you'd seen one of these photos and think, well, I'm sad or unhappy, so losing weight is the answer, as opposed to anything else that may be affecting their well-being, like mental health, self-care, or other
Yeah.
influences in modern lives. 100%.
And
So
I
what do you think?
oh,
Go on, go ahead.
I
Go
spoke
on.
about this on Mental Health Awareness Day. I spoke about the fact that I went through, I think it was like 2 years ago in February, I went through a really, really bad mental health stage, the worst I've gone through. And the first thing I did, and like I've admitted it, is I went on a diet. I joined Slimming World, got the books, got the stickers, got all the shit, started calling me food sins. And when I did that, my friend actually said to me, like my best friend who I've known for years, she said to me, she said, Lindsay, what are you doing? What are you doing? She says, are you unhappy because you're fat? And I'd be like, well, not really, no. She went, so why are you trying to lose weight? Well, it might make me feel better about myself. It might make me feel good about myself if I lose weight. She was like, Lindsay, no. Like, what are you doing? This is not your behaviour. Little did I know that that was me self-destructing. That was me self-destructing, putting myself through all that pressure of trying to lose weight and like trying to determine my happiness on if I'd got a sticker from a slimming club that's basically a capitalist way of trying to make you lose weight. Like it's just when I think about it now, it literally is nothing. Like it's so
A fucking sticker.
yeah, like honestly though, but that's what I'm saying. They are distracting people from the actual issue. And for like a few hours, I'd be buzzing that I got this sticker, put it on my wall and everything, put it on my fridge. So I reminded myself not to eat that chocolate I wanted to eat. And it was so, like thinking about it now, it was so fucked up. And when I did go to the
Mm-hmm.
doctors and I did get help, what did I do straight away? I stopped the diet because that wasn't what was making me sad. And another thing is when people see a fat body, they assume, other people assume, if you lose a bit of weight, you might be happier. You might be happier if you lose a bit of weight. And that's why fat people are not getting treated the way they should be treated, because as soon as we start saying we've got a problem, and this is where medical fat phobia comes in, it's lose some weight, lose some weight. Well, you do know you're overweight. You are overweight, lose some weight. And that's why we're always pushed to the back because nobody's listening to our problems. And maybe, just maybe, if you started listening to our problems and treating us for what was actually wrong with us, then maybe people will lose weight naturally if that's what you're wanting to happen, because that they're not being forced upon you to lose weight. It's crazy.
It's so ridiculous. It doesn't make good sense, does it, when you think about it like that? It was I when you spoke on that video, I think you said, and it was you said the notion that you're like, when I'm thin, when
Oh,
I'm thinner, I will be happier.
yeah,
Um, the problem with that is that if what you're doing is basically managing what you put in your body and how much you move your body in order to become smaller, you're not addressing why you're not unhappy.
yeah,
And you'll get to whatever your goal weight is and it won't make you happy
yeah,
because that's not what's wrong,
yeah.
you
And
know?
then also as well, you're striving constantly. You're striving to be whatever this desirable size is, whatever, and it's not a long-term fix. It's not a long-term fix. You feel great for a few days and then you put that weight back on essentially. And because you've been doing it for so long, you've been dedicated for it for so long, you feel so shit, you feel more shit about yourself because you've been striving to be thinner, and then because that's not the problem, then you put that weight back on, and then you feel even worse, and you are lost and you are trapped because everybody is telling you that it's because you're fat. Everybody. Do you know what I mean? Your family, society, magazines, shops is telling you that you're upset because you're fat. And then as soon as you've lost that weight, it's, do you know what I mean? You've lost it, and it's like, but I'm still sad. Why am I still sad?
Yeah.
And then that's when destructive behaviour comes in, because you're like, well, I need to lose more then. And then that's where eating disorders can stem from. I need to lose more then. It must be that I need to lose more. And that's when it becomes scary.
Yeah. I think that thing of as well, isn't it, that with because fat people, you know, that by their very nature they are visible.
Yes.
You know, so when somebody who is fat says, I've got an issue, then immediately the assumption is made, oh, it's because you're fat.
Yeah.
And it kind of discredits, like I've had, I mean, nowhere near, but I had an occasion at the doctor's. The first time a doctor ever said to me, you do realise you should have lost weight, you should lose weight. I was like, what? Where did that come from? I came for an asthma checkup. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't remember asking you to comment on my body shape and size. I came to get my lungs checked. Do you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, that thing about medicalising fatness. And when I went, and this time round when I went for a checkup, a hormonal checkup at the nurses, and she weighed me, I've told you this, and she weighed me and she said, I need to weigh you and measure you. And I was like, do you? She was like, yeah, just for you. I was like, okay, fine. And I got on the scales, and I was wearing my Dr. Martens, and she said, don't worry, I'll take some off for your boots. I was like, I don't care.
Don't worry.
I'm not even looking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally not even looking at the number, because I know that if I look at the number, I'll be unhappy with the number, regardless of what that number is.
Yeah.
So I don't even look. I couldn't even tell you what I weigh.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me, making that decision. And people are like, oh, well, maybe that means that you'll gradually put on weight. Maybe it does.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm 44. It's a pretty good chance I will gradually put on weight, because when you get over 40, that starts to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I would rather be doing that and not be on the scales every day than be doing that and not really know. And also that thing of, I know that the thing about talking about health is really tricky. And I know that in the field of fat activism, it's not something that we choose necessarily to engage with, because it's all part of fat phobia.
Yeah.
And I do think there is that thing of, when people say, oh, but it's not healthy, blah, blah, blah. The double-edged thing of, that isn't really what people are saying. That's an excuse for people to be fat phobic and rude and to dehumanize fat people. But secondly, fat people do know whether they're healthy or not.
Yeah.
They don't need everyone else in their immediate vicinity to be saying, you're not healthy.
Yeah.
Like, whether your body's healthy or not, don't you? So
yeah. And I think as well the
bullshit.
the idea that because there was a lot of this recent, I think it were like a few months back, there were a lot of fat people going, I'm fat but I'm healthy. And again, that is internalized fat phobia, because you are saying that as long as you are healthy,
I'm still beautiful. Yeah.
As long as you are healthy and fat, then that's all right. But if you are unhealthy and fat, and I'm sorry to say, like the majority of fat people, then that's not okay. And that still comes from internal, and that comes from the stigma that people put on fat bodies. Oh, they're unhealthy, they're ugly. So they're like, but I'm not unhealthy. So they're still trying to disprove. Like, that's great that they're trying to disprove, but because it's such a negative word to call somebody fat, they are constantly on the defense. I am not a healthy person. I am not. And I know that. And it's not all right. It's not like, but I don't owe, I don't owe anybody, but I'm trying to be really serious, and then that happened. I don't owe anybody.
I mean, you might have brushed your hair, Linz. God.
Trust me, this is brushed. I literally don't owe anybody but myself my health. I literally owe nobody my health. So it's up to me. And if I know that I am unhealthy, which I do know, then that's my choice. It is my body. And when people, like you say, come at you and say, "Oh well, you're not, you know, you need to look after yourself. What if this happens? What if that?" They don't care. They don't care, and they convince themselves it comes from a place of love or that they genuinely care. They don't care. They don't care. They just see you as a
It's
fat
just an
person.
excuse. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
you can't be fat. That's how that's what
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's a lie in it when people are
Yeah,
like, I care about your health.
yeah.
Yeah. And also, like you said, like this idea that in order to be thin and in order to be valuable, you have to be thin, aesthetically pleasing, and healthy.
Yes,
Otherwise, you don't count.
yes.
Like, how many people are 100% of the time thin, aesthetically pleasing, and healthy?
Yeah.
None.
Like
Like, very few.
I wrote a
Yeah.
status the other day, and like for a fat person to be desirable, they've got to be a scientist, they've got to have A stars, they've got to have a really well paid job, they've got to, they've got to have all these attributes before we even get noticed. And even in
Hmm.
like my own influencer world, even in that, the only reason people did start listening to me is because I grew a following. Like obviously I grew a following from what I was saying, but like companies and things, like not all the companies, but some companies would contact you because your following was suddenly going up, and then you'd reply with your
Mm.
sizes, and they'd never get back to you. And it's just
Mm.
things like that. They only cared because I started to become somebody in the influencer world. It's not because they actually cared about what I had to say. So
Because you're a commodity.
yeah, you've got to be
Hmm.
something, close bracket, open bracket, close bracket, something, to be listened to. And not some
Hmm.
of the people that listen to me now would not listen to me if I didn't have my following and I wasn't seen as an influencer. Because, quite frankly, if I've not got another attribute to bring to them, they don't give a shit about me. And that's what
Hmm.
annoys me because there's also a lack of representation of a fat person who doesn't wear makeup, a fat person with short hair. Just, do you know what I mean? It's still the very desirable fat people
Hmm.
that are seen in society often and seen in like magazines and in campaigns for plus size brands. It's still the smaller fat people that are
Yeah,
used.
and it's almost like there's that bit of like that lip service of, oh well, we've got Lizzo now, so
Yeah,
we've got that box ticked. And
yeah,
Lizzo is amazing,
yeah.
obs, but it's almost like we've got a fat person. Like, don't be asking us to make room for any more.
And
Like,
people only started crediting and listening to Lizzo because she became such a big character in regards to the
yeah, because she won
music.
loads of
That's
awards. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
because she brought another attribute, and then everybody's like, Lizzo is such a queen, but we're going to share this before and after photo 10 minutes later, and they are not understanding, they are not supporting it, they are not fully supporting it,
Hmm.
they're not.
Hmm. Mm. So you went to an event the other night, didn't you, with other influencers?
Yes, I
And
did.
we won't name the event because it sounded like it was a good night.
Oh, it
But
was amazing. It was amazing.
what what did you notice about the other people in that room?
That they were still very physically desirable, that they was typically desirable. That I was, because I asked my friend, because my friend is very straight up and she'll tell me straight. I was like, am I the only fat person? She was like, yeah. And I was like, right. And I didn't understand, like, I didn't understand fully how, like, not prestigious, but basically, yeah, how high end the event was. So I'm there in my leather skirt and a face flat feminist top with a tote bag, my leather jacket with all pins on. And I walk in, there's a red carpet, and I'm looking at my friend, and I'm like, I literally can't do this. I literally can't go in here. She was like, She went, Lindsay, they know who you are. That's why they've invited you. They clearly know that you're going to come looking weird. Like, that's
As
you.
yourself, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
you. And I walked in and I was like, there's nobody who looks like me. There is nobody who looks like me. Nobody. The only person that I related to, and I still think this is the reason why I was invited, is the owner, like the person who created the event, was a larger size. She had a large size
Right.
body, and she was,
Yeah.
and I could tell that she did get me, because as soon as she met me, oh my gosh, it's so lovely. Thank you so much for coming. Like, it's really great to meet you. And I could see that, when you just know that people know, and I was like,
Yeah.
she gets it. She completely gets it. But there was nobody who looked like me, and I got some great looks, and I mean right
Did you?
looks. Like, some were just in complete shock. I saw they were like reading my top, and they were like, and then some, and then some were
I
in,
so wish I'd been there.
yeah, and some were in complete disgust, and they were like looking at me like, why is she here? And for the first time in a long time, and if it weren't for my friend, I wouldn't have gone in. For the first time in a long time, I felt so small. Ironically, I felt so small initially. I felt so, I couldn't even verbalize. Like, the people were talking to me, I were completely like in another headspace. I literally, because nobody looked like me, I didn't relate to anybody. Like, we had a reserved table, and it's next to like people who, and maybe I am stigmatizing people with a straight size body a little bit, and I'm aware of that, and that's I've got to deal with that. But literally, if that's a micro version of the world, that really scares me. It really, really scares me, because they were seen
But it
as,
probably is, you know. It
yeah,
probably is.
they were
It's so
seen
funny because I've been. Go on, go ahead.
they were seen as influential people, and there was only one fat person, and that was me.
Yeah,
And
that's so funny. Like, not surprising, but also a bit depressing.
yeah,
And at least you were in the room. Like, do you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, how
yeah.
many of those events happen when there isn't a Lindsay McGlone in the room?
Yeah,
Plenty,
like,
you know.
this is my
So
friend said. She said you couldn't have wore any more of an apt top. She says if you want to like put a message across there, she says I'm glad you're wearing that, because at least to get the
me
at least to
too.
getting the message. And I was like, getting the
I
message.
I I think there's so much power in wearing t-shirts that just tell people what to expect.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I've got a t-shirt that says my second favorite F word is feminism.
yeah,
I wear that for school meetings. I've got a, I've got a t-shirt that says strong female lead.
yeah.
Um, Tilly bought a hoodie yesterday.
Oh, sorry, I
People who don't
actually
know,
really liked it as well.
it's amazing. So my glorious Tilly, who's 14, who's autistic, she bought a hoodie yesterday that says the Antisocial Social Club.
I love it. I love
Which
it.
I just was like you should so much easier. I'm just going to read this comment from Lucy. Lucy says, "Wait in my family." This is Lucy from the Vixen Trio. "Wait in my family, and sometimes in certain
Oh my
social
gosh,
circles,
loads
it's
of
all."
people have.
Are you seeing comments? You want to
And
watch
I am
party,
now.
and
I
you're
am
seeing
now.
different comments to me?
Go on.
Okay, is and sometimes in certain social circles, it's also almost second in conversation to hello. It's harmful. Hi, wow, you've lost weight, or hi, you look blah blah blah. Why is an opinion on someone's body and inserting that judgment into conversation so high in the communication pecking order in some circles? It's so true. It really shouldn't be, regardless of what they are about to say. Why is it so important to the person to say anything at all? So harmful and completely irrelevant to the social interaction that's about to happen. I've grown up in a very self-harming household, in that I believe different diets were continually exposed to me at a young age, but feeling that one isn't good enough was harmful for me. And I've been to hell and back emotionally, which I've in whichever shell I've appeared to be in because of it. I have never felt one should pass any judgment or feel weight has been relevant in how we communicate. I believe bodies are our power, regardless of how or what size or ability, and words should absolutely be used and taken back and made into our own. But it feels like it should be on our own terms. And when weight or aesthetic is made relevant to conversation, seconds sometimes to hello, it honestly makes me feel like all of that pressure and happiness, all of that pressure and happiness immediately. I feel like saying to that person, hi, you've grown emotionally since we last met. Have you grown emotionally since we last met? It's about the same kind of insult and flatline basicism I feel when people talk about bodies second to hello. She's so true. She's so right. She's so wise. Can you
And then
imagine?
people also say like, well, how do you engage with people who have lost weight? Like, do you hate them? Do you hate them? And I spoke about this on my body acceptance spot. It's not the physical thing about losing weight, it's the language that you use surrounding that. So I can still praise somebody for losing weight. Shock, horror. I still praise them because if that's a personal goal of theirs and they're happy, I will say, I'm glad you feel better. I'm glad that you are happy in yourself. They're like, so it's the language that you are using rather
Yeah,
than you're not supporting the idea of diet culture for saying well done for losing weight, but it's a way you word that is so
yeah.
important. It's not,
Like saying to someone, I can tell this is something that you've been that is important to you and you've been working hard on and you feel like you've achieved something and I'm really pleased for you. That's amazing.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you're not commenting on their shape or their size or anything in that. You're recognizing that there's an endeavor that's important to them and they're working to it and they're making
yeah,
progress, you
yeah,
know. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. But isn't it funny that we open conversations all the time with you look, insert whatever it is, that you look.
yeah.
You know, I kind of
Like,
I've become increasingly conscious of that.
yeah, like people, excuse me, like you hear it all the time if people aren't seeing each other, oh, have you lost weight? Or they'll turn to the mate and go, she's put on a bit of weight. And like it is the first thing that is spoke about. It's the first variable that's commented upon because it's seen as so important.
Yeah, yeah. It's small talk, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like harmful small talk.
yeah.
See, we don't really do small talk in our house, so like as a rule, we like to
I
get into the deep
understand.
stuff as
Yeah,
soon as
yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about trauma.
Yeah.
But you can't do that, can you? You can't open a conversation with someone. Christy Forbes, who's an autistic educator, talks about this. She says you can't open a conversation by saying to somebody, "Hello, my name is. Tell me about your deepest trauma."
Yeah,
It's not socially acceptable,
yeah,
at all. It would make for a much quicker and more interesting conversation with someone to work out whether you were going to connect with them or not. You could just move along. But it's that
yeah,
all that social conditioning of what a good conversation openers, the
yeah,
weather and people's bodies. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you, we're getting towards the end of our time, but kind of what do you hope for? Are you feeling hopeful about the future of like the way that we view fat bodies? Do you
I
feel positive
am.
about it generally?
I am, because more people are speaking about it, and I do see straight size people now sharing things, and I've had straight size people come to me and say like, "I'm just checking that the language on this is right. I want to share this, but I want to check that it's right." And that's really, I really fucking am thankful for that. Do you know what I mean? Because they are aware that they're not talking about an issue that actually affects them. um and they're still speaking about it, and they're giving us a voice, and like it's that thing again of the desirable person aiding us talking,
Mm-hmm.
like giving us an
Mm,
aid, a space to be listened to. But if that's
mm-hmm.
what's going to happen, then I'm happy for that. And I do feel hopeful. Like I notice that people's language is slowly changing around me, and the shocked faces are slowly disappearing when my friends call me fat. And I used to get a lot of, you can't call Lindsay fat, and my friends would be really defensive and be like, well, no, because she is fat and that's how she sees herself. um so yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
But I think like anything, we need to keep speaking about it until it fully changes.
And what can people do? Like if they want to be good fat allies, what do you think? Give me a couple of top tips. I'm putting you on the spot
um
here.
no diet talk, completely no diet talk, no talking of sins. um Also, when you
Sins.
address a fat when you address a fat person, address them how they want to be addressed. Don't call them fluffy or big boned or there's more to love or there's more to cuddle. Don't say that shit. Don't say that shit because that's still really detrimental. Don't don't say things like you're not fat, you're beautiful, or you're fat but you've got a nice face. That's you get that so much in dating. Oh, it's all right that you've got a nice face. Like, fuck off.
If only you were thinner. You'd be so beautiful if you were thin.
Like, yeah. It's all right
Yeah.
though, because in a few years you might lose a few pounds. Like, don't do that. Change your language in regards to people when they have lost weight. Praise them on their achievement rather than their physical representation. Don't say things like, oh my God, you look so great. I can tell you've lost weight. You look amazing. I can tell you've lost weight. Say, I can see how happy you are. I can see how good you feel. Things like that. It's just changing your language. And also, just a quick thing is no food guilt. No food guilt. When you're and do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. Maybe I've missed it being spoken about earlier. I've not used the term straight side. Can you explain this? 1 second. Yeah. No guilt around food. When people are eating food and they are saying, "Oh, I've got to go to gym later because I've just had one biscuit," that's also really, really detrimental. And do it for yourself. If you put guilt on food, like, don't do that. Don't put guilt on food. You're meant to enjoy it.
Food is food. It's energy. It's fuel. It's
yeah.
things. It's something to be enjoyed. And yeah.
Faye just said quickly, what is straight size? So I don't hear many people use it, but straight size is just a term that I use for non-fat bodies. It's just because, like, oh, for God's sake, like people don't want to be rude to me, and they don't know if I'm comfortable with the term fat. I don't want to be rude to a slimmer body by referring to them as skinny, thin.
Yeah.
I don't, because there may also be connotations with that, so I just use the term straight size so that I am consciously not being offensive to other bodies as well.
Really good. Do you know what else as well I would add to that? Tilly, what are you doing? Sorry, we're just getting Lego out. Sorry, you can hear that rustling in the background. She's awake, the Lego's out. That's an indication. The fart comes first, then the Lego. So it's like an alarm clock. So one thing I think that for anybody who wants to be a good ally for any marginalized group is, rather than seeing stuff and then going and talking about it yourself, share the stuff of the people from the marginalized group when you're on social media.
Yeah.
That's from people who are fat. If you want to be a fat ally, share posts from people who are people of color if you want to be an ally to Black people or to people of color. And I think that's so important, that like you were saying, like, it shouldn't be that in order to be heard it should come out of the mouth of a straight size person. The straight size person can hold the door open for the fat person to speak. I think that's really, on social media, that's really important.
Definitely.
So anything else you want to add before I do a bit of wrapping up and pointing at people, pointing for people, posting?
No, I'm done. I think I've said quite a bit, actually. I'm quite surprised.
Been so good. Where can people find you?
Difficult. You can find me at Rolling with Lindsay, but no G. No G. So my main platform is Instagram, so it's Rolling with Lindsay, but no G, and there is an underscore. But if you type my name in, you'll probably find me anyway. So that's where my
serious jocking.
Yeah, that's where my main platform is. I do have a blog, but everything's linked on my Instagram, so I'd just go straight to my Instagram. You are welcome to add me on Facebook. I now keep everything public. So
obviously people can find you here because we're on your profile. So when I share this elsewhere, if they go back to the original source, it's coming from Lindsay's profile because we couldn't get on mine and we couldn't get on my page. Should we just talk a little about, have you got a buy me a coffee link if people want to make a donation?
I have, but I don't know the link off by heart.
We'll find it and we'll post it if people want to buy you a coffee. Awesome. Cool. And should we talk a little about Thrive before we go?
We shall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go on then, talk about Thrive.
So Thrive, we are holding on the 18th of January, which is my granddad's birthday, which I forgot about, but it's okay. It's fine.
Oops.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
He'll just have to come.
Yeah, it's on the 18th of January. It is an anti-change me event. It is in January. We've done that intentionally. It's not an event about change. It's not an event about being less of a person to be loved. It's not about new year, new me. It's about new year, better me, same me. I am mint. I am great. And we are just reinforcing the idea of that. We're also consciously using marginalised people to give them a space and a voice. So I will be speaking about, Grenville's back. Inside joke. I have a stutter, but it very rarely comes out, very rarely, and we call him Grenville. So
Open all hours.
Yeah.
Grenville.
Yeah, so we call him Grenville. So I'll be speaking about fat acceptance. Heidi, go.
I'm going to speak about self-care. Self-care is not spa days. Because that's kind of my thing. Apparently, I'm the self-care bitch. That's what I've been. That's how I've been titled in my group now. Okay. It's a positive term. We're reclaiming that term.
Yeah.
Like Lizzo reclaimed 100% that bitch.
Yeah.
I'm 100% the self-care bitch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak about self-care. We've also got Jenny Dewsnap, who is the chair of Doncaster Pride, and isn't she now the chair of?
No, she's the
Pride thing.
I think the correct is it co-chair? Is that a thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the co-chair of it. Like England's Pride, just recently.
Pride UK.
Pride UK. Yeah. They had the conference like 3 weeks back. Yeah. And
she's going to talk about coming late to the gay table, basically, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's her thing. Because she lived. Go on.
She's going to speak about the typical. The way she put it was gay and delayed. So going to talk about having a family, having all that unit, and then coming out as gay. So
cool. And then we've also got Sarah Harvey, who, if you're on Facebook and if you move in any autism circles or autistic activist circles, you'll know of her. She's the Agony Autie. She's a public speaker and an activist, and talks about autism. She herself is autistic. Her child is autistic, and she's going to come and talk about what that means, what it means to be in the world as an autistic person, and the myths around autism. And I'm so looking forward to hearing her speak. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. We both have a vested interest in that because I have an autistic child, and I'm not neurotypical myself, and Lindsay works with adults with autism.
Learning difficulties and mental health.
Yeah. So some of your clients are on the spectrum.
Yes.
That's right, innit? Mm-hmm. And then we also have some special guests. So we've got Ruby with Three Wise Jones, who is an incredible queer neo-burlesque performer, who is going to be performing for us. And she's also going to sit on our Q&A panel in the afternoon. We have Lydia Burns-Meyer-Rullo, who is a spoken word artist, a mixed race spoken word artist from Manchester, who's going to be doing some spoken word for us. And we have the Drag Collective from Doncaster. Do you want to speak about them a little?
Well, we haven't announced it yet, but if we're going to do it right now, we'll do it now.
Let's do it now. Oops.
I saw your face. You were like, we've got the drag shit. We have got.
Oh, God. If I was a professional, I'd be dangerous.
We've got fluidity as well. I'm going to tell you that now. We've got fluidity, which I'm personally really. I can see your face.
I'm the actual monkey emoji.
We've got fluidity, which I'm personally very, very excited about. They were hosting the event that I was at last night as well, at the only LGBTQ plus venue in Doncaster town, the only one that's just open. It's the Gallery. Sorry. They were hosting the event last night as well. So in my bevid state, I was speaking to them about Thrive and how excited I was to have them there. And they're like a drag family. And the way they describe themselves it's not the performance, they bring the experience, and that is so true. And I am so excited to have them there.
I'm so excited. So the event is in the morning, performances and keynote speakers around those topics we just talked about. Then a break for lunch. Then in the afternoon, a choice of workshops, all included. So you can do a Instagram masterclass with Lindsay.
Yep.
Lindsay McGlone, Rolling with Lindsay, who organically grew her Instagram following in less than 12 months to more than 10,000 followers.
That's
Boom.
correct.
There you go. You can have a Let Shit Go workshop with me, which is all around giving yourself permission to say no and moving past old shit that really doesn't serve you. Or you can do a burlesque for beginners workshop with Lady Wildflower, who is an internationally recognized burlesque performer, producer, and teacher. So you have that, have all of those choices, all included in the ticket price. Tickets are 30 quid, and they're available from Cast in Doncaster. They are now available online. We only just realised that they weren't. So if you go to either of our...
Sorry, quickly. Best thing about that, I like rang up like every 4 days, and I was like, this is weird. And then somebody messaged Heidi and were like, sorry, is this all right to tell you that the tickets are not on sale online? And we were like,
oh, that'll be why then. Like, who rings the box office? So yeah, so we'll post a link. There's a Facebook event. If you search for Thrive with an exclamation mark Doncaster, you can also find us over on Insta at Thrive Doncaster, and we'll post some links. It'll be lovely to see you. Come and hang out with some other amazing people. Come and hang out with the kind of people that me and Lindsay want to surround ourselves with, which are basically awesome badasses.
Yes.
So it's going to be brilliant. So yeah, it's been great, Linz. Thank you very much. Thank you for being so patient with the tech this morning. I'm going to go and take my child for pancakes, and then we're going to go and see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Whoop whoop. Okay. We're very excited. Very excited. Okay, cool. Lovely to see you. I'll speak to you when I get back up to that there Yorkshire. But thanks so much for your time today. And if you're watching this video on replay and you've made it to the end, please click a share. And if you're watching on live, please also click a share. Really, we would really appreciate some sharing. That would be amazing.
Yes.
I'm going to get lots.
And thank you as well for listening to me.
Lots of pausing now with people commenting. So I'll let you sign off.
Yeah.
And
remember, I'll save the video. I'll save the video. That is a bit. I'll save the video. Make sure I share the video.
I can rip it from Facebook. I've got a very clever app. So I can do that.
All right then.
I'll share it with you now that you're on Facebook now. You taught me about Instagram. Yeah. So share my Facebook.
Right, let's go. See you later.
All right then.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.